So I don't want to be a copycat here because there have been multiple YouTubers who have gone over this and taken a look at it. But I think just in general this would be important. Oh, I have a last shot I should take. That was to a waste of 2.5 hours. I'm kidding. All right, let's take a look at this because when we look at it from a place of policy, because policy is important when it comes to this. Look at it from a place of policy. What policy is there? Also, I think it's important to understand what policy is. Just simply, let's look up what is a policy. This would be a good thing to look up. So, a course or principle of action adopted or proposed by a government, party, business, or individual. A course or principle of action. Course of action. Course of action. Let's take a look at this. Take a look at this. President Trump fighting for you. Jobs. Create 10 million new jobs in 10 months. How is that a policy? Because this is policies, right? Core priorities. There's no policy-focused speeches. If this is what he's going off of, there's no policy here. Create 10 million new jobs in 10 months. I don't see how, in any sense, that is a policy. There's no specificity here. It's not like doing anything whatsoever at all. Like, that's nothing. Create 1 million new small businesses. The issue with this entire thing is that a lot of this stuff is out of the president's control. Yes, he can do things to influence the economy, but in a large sense, the president doesn't have a whole lot of say here. Cut taxes to boost take-home pay and keep jobs in America. Okay, how exactly? What are the tax brackets going to be? I mean, are you going to do that through cutting things like you've talked about, like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, that will leave people such as our veterans, which you talk so much about caring? Will they just be left out? Will they be left out because you want to cut taxes? Is that what's going to happen? Enact fair trade deals that protect American jobs. Okay, well, let's talk about that. We're talking about the tariffs. The tariffs and the trade war that has been going on between China that have been costing American farmers billions of dollars and then end up having to be bailed out by you. This is what baffles me when it comes to these huge bailouts. Like, yes, I'm actually glad that these bailouts are going to farmers and not like Boeing, like they did with this whole big corporate bailout, this corporate slush fund. But if we look at this from a purely pragmatic standpoint, how is this not what Republicans would call complete and utter socialism? Like, it's just such socialism. By the way, it's in no way socialism. Socialism is when the workers on the means of production, not when the government does stuff. So stop it. But I remember back when Obama bailed out the auto industry during the recession. When he bailed them out, and all of it was paid back with interest. And he called him a huge socialist and a huge government spender and all of that. And yet Trump does this. Bails out all the farmers because of his failed trade war. None of it is expected to be paid back, and no one cares. So it's like, what is going on here? Okay. Made in America tax credits. Like, what does that mean? Explain that. Expand opportunity zones. Like, how vague is this? The issue with a lot of this stuff is it's so vague that it doesn't mean anything. Like, there's no meaningful idea that goes on with expanding opportunity zones. Expanding opportunity zones can mean so many things. And the idea is, and this is actually really interesting, half of these, one, the president can't do. The other half are so vague that you can't actually define what would constitute success. Because when you make a goal, there has to be some sort of idea of success in mind. How is this? How am I going to see this in action? You have to have a vision of what it's going to look like. Expand opportunity zones. What does that mean? Like, expand funding for schooling? To what extent? 5 kids get better schooling? 5,000 kids? Like, what is your goal? Like, this is so vague. He can declare success on anything just based on that. And continue deregulatory agenda for energy independence. Okay, great, awesome. We'll just keep deregulating the oil industry until we pollute the fuck out of our earth, and then we all have to deal with this down the road because Donald Trump doesn't care about the future. He cares about his current presidency. He cares about making money. All right. Eradicate COVID-19. That's interesting because as far as I'm concerned, you said it was a hoax and you said it was not a big deal and it would be a flu. So it's interesting we're still talking about that if that's the case. But let's go down this trail. Develop a vaccine by the end of 2020. Might I remind you, this is Trump's second term agenda. Might I remind you that Trump's second term doesn't start before the end of 2020. So how is this a second term agenda when this is supposed to happen before 2020. Return to normal in 2021. Like, how is that a policy? Like, that makes no sense whatsoever at all. I need to make this a separate video because I think Vosh already made like a video kind of on this. I saw something about it, but I just thought I had to like give my take on it too. But yeah. All right. Make all critical medicines and supplies for healthcare workers in the United States. Okay. Awesome. Why was that not done before? Like, why? Like, and it goes along with refill stockpiles and prepare for future pandemics. Why did it take a global pandemic for you to finally decide to restock? This should have been done before. This is like you getting into a car crash and then saying, "Oh, I'll wear my seatbelt next time." Yeah, no shit, you should, but you should have been doing it the first time because that's what everyone agrees you should be doing. So refill stockpiles and prepare for future pandemics. You should have done it before. One, when there were literally researchers that we had in China talking about the possible spread of some sort of strain of some virus, or when in 2018 the CDC did like a test trial run of our country's capacity to handle something like a pandemic and found that we were severely underprepared for something of this nature, and he just completely ignored it. Didn't care at all. Completely relocated the pandemic response team to something that's not even involved with that, and look where we are now. End our reliance on China. Interesting. Bring back 1 million manufacturing jobs from China. How are you going to do that? Like how? Like what? Like that's not a policy. That's just you saying we're going to do this. Like, okay, whatever. Okay. Tax credits for companies that bring back jobs from China. Okay, what kind of tax credits? Like this isn't policy. This is not. Allow 100% expensing deductions for essential industry. like how is that going to help anyone other than these pharmaceutical companies? Like this doesn't constitute anything. Right, no federal contracts, companies outsourced to China. Okay, hold China fully accountable for allowing the virus to spread around the world. What does that look like? What does that even mean? You've spent this entire time criticizing China and saying China's the problem. China's to blame here. Great, awesome. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of if, I don't know, you and two other friends are playing baseball. You are, I guess, you're the pitcher. You throw the ball to the batter, and the batter hits the ball incredibly hard into the third person's face, and they're laying on the ground. And all you're doing is you're standing there and you're pointing at the batter, being like, it's his fault, his fault, his fault. Okay, great. No shit, actually, this is actually an even better scenario because we can't even really say if it would technically be that fault. Was it China's fault? Yeah, they fucked up. But we can keep pointing fingers at them or we can solve the damn problem. And that's not what's been happening. Sorry, I'm not looking at the comments. I don't know who's really commenting, if anyone is commenting. But, yeah. So, yeah, let's continue talking about this. So yeah, what does that look like? What does it even mean? Why don't we solve the problem instead of pointing fingers? But Trump doesn't know how to do that. Healthcare, cut prescription drug prices. How? Like what? Like you're just gonna keep going back to right to try, as you continue to allow pharmaceutical companies to reap the profits of life-saving drugs at the expense of Americans who have to ration, their medication so they don't die? Like that? Get out of here. Put patients and doctors back in charge of our healthcare system. Like, what does that even mean? Like, that's so like. Like this isn't policy. Like this is what this reminds me of. This is like this is like you in first period. And yes, I got this from Vosh because he already went over this, but I thought it was a great analogy. It was like you're basically in first period and you have an essay due second period, and this is what you write up. We're going to make new jobs, we're going to hold China accountable, and eventually we'll get to the part where we fucking go to Mars. Like, this is like, so, all right, end surprise billing, cool, like with what, like a universal healthcare system? Cover all pre-existing conditions, interesting. And along with this one, when you try to repeal Obamacare, which would therefore leave people with pre-existing conditions severely vulnerable and not have assured coverage. And then you say protect Social Security and Medicare when those are two programs that you've been avid in defunding. Like, what are you talking about? You slash their budgets so much. All right, protect our veterans and provide world-class health care and services. Like, what is that? Protect our veteran. Like, what does that even mean? Through what? You want to repeal and replace Obamacare. You tried to repeal it, didn't work, but you didn't even have a replacement. What is your replacement? Like, what does that even mean? Okay. Education. Let's move on. I love how he only has 2 points under education. By the way, like his entire plan on education is just 2 points. Two. That's it. Just 2 points. All right. Provide school choice to every child in America. I'm gonna get into this now because why not? You know, it's an interesting thing to discuss. What is school choice? School choice says that, you know, if a kid, you know, is somehow able to get out of the place that they're required to go due to their zip code, they're able to do so. That's awesome for that one kid. You know what that doesn't solve? The fact that their school that they were supposed to go to is shit in the first place. So literally what's going to happen? Everyone's just going to move and just leave these areas. So we're going to have massive holes in our country of just like abandoned like neighborhoods that are just terrible. Like what? Like that's not a long-term solution. That's not a long-term solution at all. How about improve the education system through increased funding to provide more opportunities to those who are low income? How about that? That would be a policy. That would be a policy. Increased funding. You know, things of that sort. That's a policy. All right. This one gets me every time. Teach American exceptionalism. Like, of all things, like, okay, do you really know what American exceptionalism is like tied to? American exceptionalism is tied to ultra-nationalism and white supremacy. American exceptionalism is referred to in the academic sense as the belief that America is superior, and American culture and American people, American culture, which when people refer to that, refer to European culture, white culture, is superior to other cultures. This was what was used to justify imperialism and the destruction of other nations. That's what it was. So you say teach American exceptionalism. You know he doesn't mean teach that white supremacy is a bad thing and that American actions best. No, he wants to teach that American exceptionalism was a good thing. That's scary. We should not be celebrating imperialism. Imperialism was not a good thing. But apparently we just don't care about that. All right. Drain the swamp. Funny considering going down the Postmaster General, one of your biggest campaign donors in front of the post, in charge of the post office, and now he just decides to, very conveniently start to remove sorting machines. All right. Pass congressional term limits. All right. You know what? I would be on board with that. I would. I'd be on board with passing congressional term limits. So we don't have people like Mitch McConnell who've been in the Senate for 40 years getting nothing done. I actually don't know how long Mitch McConnell's been in the Senate, so don't hold that against me. A long time. He's been in the Senate for a long time. And he's, almost everyone hates Mitch McConnell. Like, I feel like that should be a TV show. It's like, what is it? Everyone hates Adam or something? Adam ruins everything. Everyone hates Chris. Something like that. That's a TV show. But I feel like there should be one called Everyone Hates Mitch McConnell. Because everyone does. Like, who likes Mitch McConnell? Like, no one likes Mitch McConnell. Fun fact, do you know Mitch McConnell's first name is Addison? Imagine. Addison. You have failed once again. All right. And bureaucratic government bullying of U.S. citizens and small... What the heck does that mean? Like, that could mean so many things. Like, bureaucratic government bullying? Like, how does that mean anything? Expose Washington's money trail and delegate powers back to people and states. Like, what is that? Drain the globalist swamp by taking on international organizations that hurt America? Like, what? The UN? I feel like he's referencing the World Health Organization here. Like, yeah, the World Health Organization messed up in multiple areas. One, I don't support defunding them in the middle of a global pandemic. But, like, still, this doesn't mean anything. It has no substance to it. We don't even know what it's talking about. All right. Defend our police. All right. Fully fund and hire more police and law enforcement. Okay, cool. We have seen that more policing does not lead to lower crime. If that were the case, then the highest crime neighborhoods would be the lowest because they're the most policed. The places with the lowest crime don't have the most police. They have the most resources. They have the most they have the most opportunity. They have the best education, best access to quality jobs, stuff of that sort. Best access to quality healthcare, things like that. That lowers crime, not more policing. Like this is. This idea that we just need to, like, if there's more cops, suddenly the crime, no, like that's not even, that's so reactionary. It's not even preventative, and it's just increased criminal penalties for assaults on law enforcement officers. Like, do you realize how, like, how like specifically targeted that is in a time like this, as police are just out there assaulting people of color in particular for no apparent reason. And you come out here and try to talk about assault on law enforcement. That is the most, like, right here, this sentence is, in a sense, Blue Lives Matter. That's what that sentence means. It means Blue Lives Matter. We're not going to say that outright, but you know what? You know those people who are being killed and being shot? Those people of color? Yeah. What about those officers that are being assaulted? What about them? Like, that's the biggest Blue Lives Matter or All Lives Matter thing without directly stating it. Like, that's exactly what that is. All right. Prosecute drive-by shootings as acts of domestic terrorism. Okay, out of all of these things, like, create 10 million new jobs. Like, return to normal, like these vague things. And suddenly he comes out with this prosecute drive-by. Like, what does he think? Why is this on here? Like, what does this do? For one, I'll tell you that most drive-by shootings happen with primarily gang groups that are in gangs. Gangs are primarily African Americans. That is a large part of the African American community. So by him saying this is specifically targeted at the African American community. So that's an example of, I'm not going to say explicit racism, but this is definitely implicit racism. Racism disguised, I would actually say it's explicit. It's right here. It is targeted at them. And it's so specific in a list of incredibly vague things. The one thing specifically targets black people. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know out of this. All right. Bring violent extremist groups like Antifa to justice. One, Antifa isn't a group. This whole notion that Antifa is like this organization with this leader is just completely just false. Like, I don't understand this. Like, when was the last time that, like, specifically Antifa killed someone? I would like to know this. Like, oh, the riots are all Antifa members. Like, no, I'm sorry. Okay, end cashless bail and keep dangerous criminals locked up until trial. Like, okay, cool. Let's just, like, disregard the Constitution, which talks about how you can't, like, have unnecessary bail in the 8th Amendment for cruel and unusual punishment or unnecessary bail. Like, yeah, let's fuck the Constitution. Who cares? Like, we should just, end people's ability to get bailed out. Like, what? Like, that's not how that works. All right. So move on. End illegal immigration and protect American workers. I'm going to help you out here. The word illegal here is irrelevant. We could take that word out because what this really is about is ending immigration. Donald Trump doesn't like immigration. He doesn't want immigrants in this country. You know why? Because he built his entire campaign off of a xenophobic agenda. It's that simple. Donald Trump does not want immigrants in this country. If you wanted immigrants in this country, you would not be building a fucking wall. Because anyone with 2 brain cells knows that is not an effective way to keep people out. It is a xenophobic and racist symbol of isolationism. That's exactly what it is. And it gets his base riled up. And it was one of the, like, dumbest promises that he ever made. It's like, it's so... I don't want to get into a huge discussion on the wall. Because, like, this could go on for, like, ever. But when we're talking about the wall in particular, like... that's like a 2nd grade solution. What are we going to do? There's people coming in, build a wall. Like, well, have you ever considered why they're coming in? Like, what maybe the fact that you cut off aid to El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala would cause more uprisings and more people and less ability of their government to control what's going on and lead to more people coming to the border. And then you just blame the problem on not your actions, but rather just increase gang violence for no apparent reason. Like, this makes absolutely no sense. All right. So block illegal immigrants from becoming eligible for taxpayer-funded welfare, healthcare, and free college tuition. Seems like you're against free college anyway. So aren't you just against it for all citizens, or apparently you're just against it for illegal immigrants? Apparently you're just against it for that. But other citizens, you're fine with free college. Interesting, even that you said that. Crazy idea. Why don't you like make them citizens and then they pay taxes and then we have more people paying into the system? Like that's mandatory deportation for non-citizen gang members. Like, okay, cool, dude. Like, congrats. Like that's not gonna solve the problem. Dismantle human trafficking networks. Like what how? we're gonna say no to human trafficking. No. Like what? That's so minute. Like what does that mean? Like that means nothing. End sanctuary cities to restore neighborhoods and protect our families. This is literally the most like clear example of fear mongering throughout this entire list, probably right here. There might be another one that I forgot about, but other than probably like the Antifa one or the drive-by shootings. End sanctuary cities to restore our neighborhoods and protect our families. Painting this idea that these illegal immigrants are just these ruthless criminals who are out to come kill and rape your wife and your family. Like this notion that these people are just like absolute animals, a word he actually used to describe them, is deeply dangerous. It's deeply dangerous that this rhetoric and this idea, this notion that these people are just out to kill us is acceptable, is completely disgusting. So this is right here is, deplorable. All right. Prohibit American companies from replacing United States citizens with lower cost foreign workers. This in particular is how you know he doesn't give a flying fuck about illegal immigration. It's about foreign workers. Foreign workers. It doesn't matter if they're legal or illegal. The matter of the fact is they're foreign workers, and foreign workers is what they're against. So when they say just do it the legal way, they're basically saying, yeah, do it the legal way until you find out a way to come in legally, and then we'll stop that too. Like, they are anti-immigration. Make no mistake about it. They are literally anti-immigration. Require new immigrants to be able to support themselves financially. Cool. So how are you going to do that when you don't even fucking let them in? How are you going to do that? That makes absolutely no sense to me. So I'm not checking chat. I'm going to see if there's anyone who's actually in here saying stuff. Maybe, maybe not. All right. So yeah, I am talking about this. Glad Carly's still here. All right. Innovate for the future. Let's talk about that. Launch Space Force. I thought that already happened. Does he still need to do that? All right. Launch Space Force. Establish permanent manned presence on the moon and send the first manned mission to Mars. So 500,000 people are currently homeless in the United States, and we're focused on creating houses on Mars. Why don't we create affordable housing on our planet, maybe? Like, what are you going to do? Send all the homeless people to Mars, hope they're able to conquer it? Like, what do you... Oh my God. Build the world's greatest infrastructure system. Whoa. We're going to build it, folks. It's going to be great. It's going to be the greatest infrastructure. Trust me. It's going to be the greatest. Believe me. It's going to be the greatest infrastructure. Like, bruh. If I asked you what your plan for infrastructure was to innovate for the future, and you said, yeah, we're going to build the world's greatest infrastructure system, I would look at you like you're a fool. Because it doesn't mean anything. When I ask you, when I ask you your plan for infrastructure, and you give me it's going to be a great infrastructure system, it's like, what are you on? What are you even talking about it? Win the race to 5G and establish a national high-speed wireless internet network? Well, interestingly enough, the United States is a country where the citizens pay the most amount for their internet and actually have significantly lower speeds than the majority of the world. We pay more. We pay more because we don't have what is considered universal broadband that allows. So yes, this is great. This is awesome. Is it going to be done through government broadband, or is it going to be done through just giving more money to these private corporations to continue to speed it up for certain people and slow it down? Net neutrality is very important. Doesn't seem like that's important about that. Continue to lead the world in access to the cleanest drinking water and the cleanest air. Ah, yes, the same time you advocate and subsidize fossil fuels, and the Flint water crisis is still not solved. Okay. Awesome. I definitely believe you. completely satirical there, completely sarcastic. Partner with other nations to clean up our planet's oceans. Sounds like a great plan. Why haven't you been doing it the past 4 years? All I have to say. America first foreign policy. That's pretty scary. This sounds like a Groiper line. Okay. Stop endless wars and bring our troops home. Well, we're not doing that right now. Get allies to pay their fair share. Wait a second. Maintain and expand America's unrivaled. Stop endless wars. Expand America's military. Stop endless. What? Didn't think they would like contradict themselves within the same subgroup. Interesting. Wipe out global terrorists who threaten harms to Americans. Build a great cybersecurity defense and missile system. Stop endless wars. Bring our troops home. Build a great cybersecurity missile system. Like what? This isn't adding up. Well, it's interesting. It's interesting how these aren't plans. None of these are plans. It's just rhetoric. It's just rhetoric to make you think that what's going on here is simply just, we're going to stop endless wars, but also keep you safe. We're going to bring our troops home, but we're also going to expand our military. Like, this makes no sense. Like, I swear Trump probably wrote this himself. Like, I am astonished that this was published on a national campaign website. Like, I could not write this in my gov class and get away with this. My teacher would laugh at me if this was my proposal. Like, I'm sorry, this is too much. So, I don't know. Let's see. So it looks like I can do this because it looks like there's like no one here. So I'm just going to blow myself up. Get it? Because we were talking about the military and missile system. Oops. All right. Well, thank you all for being here. I think this was really interesting. I think that I definitely didn't learn anything that I knew or of value. I mean, what do you expect? It's the RNC. It's, them nominating the same man who, in the past 4 years, has done nothing but completely make a joke out of this entire American process and our country. So, thank you all for being here. I mean, there's probably like one person. I'm probably just talking to one person. But, for those of you who watch this later, I hope you, enjoyed me going through this. I hope, you were able to sit through this. I may break this up into 2 separate clips. So one of them is this. One of them is the actual convention coverage, and one of them is me going through this, because I think this was valuable. A lot of it was like taken from Vosh, so I should probably give him credit. But I added some of my own stuff in here. So I thought that was really interesting, and I hope you all have a great night, and I will talk to you all later. So